And welcome back to Zombie SquadCAST. In this episode, I got Dylan Martin. Dylan, welcome to the podcast. And me and Dylan worked on a couple of films and a couple of music videos some years back. And from what I understand, Dylan moved somewhere. I'm not sure where, but we'll jump into that. But yeah, Dylan is from what I remember, filmmaker, videographer, editor, camera operator, things of that nature. But without further ado, Dylan, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you've been up to, what you do, and all that.
Okay. Hi, Glenn. Good to see you again.
Good seeing you too.
Yeah. So my life has kind of taken a turn since I was doing film work.
Yep.
I still love consuming cinema, but I have not been making it. About 8 years ago, I had an accident and lost 3 of the 4 muscle cores in my right leg. And it kind of made me reevaluate things. So I decided to move to Oregon, which is where I am now. I actually came out here to work on a pot farm at first, just because I wanted to see something different. Mm-hmm. But I lost my folks about 5 years ago and got some money from it. So I bought a farm. And now I actually do real farming. And it's incredible. So it's nice because I'm self-employed. And I'm able to read as much as I want and view as much as I want. And I want to get back into possibly teaching sometime in the future with some kind of film program. But for now, I've just been farming. And if you don't mind, I'll flip you around here so you can see if you'd like. But we've got about 100 head of cattle out there. We got 6 hogs down in the barn that are set to be about 400 pounds each.
Okay.
We got chickens, ducks, rabbits, and yeah, we're farming, man.
That's awesome. Well, congrats. Yeah. Thanks. So how did this whole accident? What happened? If you don't mind me asking, what was the accident? What happened, and how did you?
Here, I'll even show you the leg.
Okay.
Down here. You can see that. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'll be completely frank with you. I ended up going to University of Baltimore for grad school. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They had something called the Integrated Design Program. So I was doing video, web, and print stuff. But I decided to take a summer off from school. Normally I would do summer classes too. And I just did not engage in proper self-care, man. And I ended up falling after a night of drinking and hit my head. And I was out for over 7 hours straight with my leg bent. So the blood flow got cut off below the kneecap. Mm-hmm. And I was in the ICU at University of Maryland Medical Center for a month. And, I was going for a Darwin Award, but I didn't quite make it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but it changed my life because I realized that I couldn't sit inside anymore. I was told I wouldn't walk again. And so it took me about a year to get back into the rhythm of it. But Oregon's great hiking country.
Sure.
And I just kind of moved on with the hope that I could do something with my film background out here at some point. So, but other than that, I've been farming and actually doing things with investments. And I've found better luck money-wise in investing than I have with finding film work. So.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah. No, I me and the wife, I can't agree with you more. Me and the wife have been dabbling a little bit in investments here and, like playing around on the app Robinhood and kind of like buying some small stocks and went from to maybe double. And then you do whatever and, all that kind of like playing around. But, I have to, I get it. And I was lucky and I stuck to the film thing and I was able to at least make a living out of it and a somewhat of a career. I even started dabbling into acting and like podcasting and live streaming and all these different things to kind of like stay within the realm of film and TV and audio, video, and that sort of universe. But like learning new tech, but yeah, man. Kind of maybe not the same kind of realm, but maybe 10 years ago, I was kind of out of shape. I'd be late to set a lot, discipline wise and stuff like that. So I'm sure you're aware I joined the National Guard in 2011.
Oh,
And,
right.
And that, that semi-military, well, not semi, that, military background definitely changed my, way of thinking, my, diet and fitness and health and discipline wise and like leadership wise. And so it's definitely like taking a step out of, our norms and doing something different. And like you said, eventually, maybe you want to dabble back into film and do that. But I mean, I totally get this whole mindset of doing something totally different and actually succeeding at that, and just a major change,
Yeah,
absolutely. So running this farm, you seem kind of isolated already. How would you say you've been impacted by the whole quarantine and the coronavirus COVID-19 situation? How would you say you've been impacted? Let's say professionally.
Okay, so professionally, this has been a major blow to us economically.
Okay.
So cattle prices are just way down. There's a company called JBS, which owns most of the slaughterhouses in the country. And I don't know the exact numbers. I want to say it was at least a decade ago. They were bought out by Brazilians. It was an American company, but they are squeezing as many farmers as they can. And so the whole slaughtering business has become kind of dicey, and the prices are way, way down on beef.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we've got 100 head out there right now. They're not all ours. I work with a buddy of mine, but he can barely pay rent on the cattle that he has out there, which is unfortunate. And then even like we're raising these hogs, and when you go to raise a hog, you set a slaughter date at the date it's born. You just kind of know they grow very steadily and quickly, but we've had to push that back by over a month and a half because we sell our meat locally out here, which it's not a huge problem, but it's just there are these trickle down effects that happen even to farmers through the impact of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been interesting to see. And, we are pretty isolated out here, but things even feel more isolated than they were before in terms of neighbors don't, quite approach each other the same because we're all trying to distance. I'm one of the youngest guys out in this valley. I would say the median age is probably 65 to 70 out here. So, it's been interesting to see that, but I don't know how long the economic impact's going to last on this. And I don't know if this is going to be the new reality in terms of the beef and such. It's been about 4 years now since the U.S. government stopped labeling where meat, it's called COOL, country of origin labeling. And farmers have been fighting for a while now, trying to get it back in act because people should know where their meat's coming from. And a lot of people want to buy American, but can't because they don't even know where their beef's coming from.
Right.
So, so that's the effect it's had business-wise on us.
Okay.
I guess the other impact would be normally this time of year we have people contact us who might want to grow a plot of hemp or something. There's normally people who contact us, and we've had no one call us up to try to rent out any of the acreage. So that's different too.
Okay. Now, personally, are you married? You got kids?
I got a fiance. We've been together for 5 years.
Okay. Yeah. So how would you say personally you've been impacted?
Okay. So, we're really tight, and it's kind of funny. Her name's Casey. I guess she hasn't left since September now. So she was already here most of the time, despite virus or anything else. She lives here. She's got a lamp working studio. So she melts glass, and then she does all kinds of gardening and farming. So in terms of our personal relationship, I'm spending even more time at home,
Mm-hmm.
which has not caused any problems. I used to try to limit my trips to town to once a week. Now I limit it to almost once a month.
Yeah.
So we're just spending more time together.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely what happened with me and the wife. And, having the kid in quarantine, we've been very hands-on. I mean, we've seen every little micro growth and micro evolution of the kid for the past 4 months. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I definitely get that. We're not on a farm, and like you, and like and your terminology is unique. It says, once a week I would, go into town, and that's like kind of what the farmers out in, the countryside think of. Of course, me and the wife would go grocery shopping, a couple times a week. So we would we would go into town, like every other day, or
Right.
every third day. We would, run errands and get groceries and do other errands, things of that nature. And now, like you said, we try to limit grocery shopping to once every other week. And we tried that, but really it was like I was going to the grocery store once a week, and we were getting only what we really, really needed. So I wasn't in there for hours. I was in there for maybe 20, 30 minutes in the grocery store.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a unique take on, I think you're the first guest that I've had that's living out on a farm out in the countryside. And so it's unique. So, yeah, so we were talking a second ago about, you earlier, you mentioned cool. So let's delve into that, because that's kind of another point. I didn't, I know I sent you some notes about, like what we discussed on the show, but what I didn't mention was, like American society is changing drastically, and there's a lot of things changing in the last, I want to say, 2 months. I'm in the DC Guard, so I've been involved in, quite a bit of a headache of sorts in the last 3 weeks. But so cool. So they're trying to change cool. So I agree. It's very important that we know where our meat and where our food's coming from, and what we're putting in our bodies.
Right.
So you were saying, and farmers are trying to get that back.
Yeah. So for the past over 4 years now, there's been a big push by cattle ranchers in this country to require the USDA to say, sometimes if you go and buy ground beef, say, you might get a blend of beef from Uruguay and Australia, and it's not labeled as such. And I'm not worried about the health impact. I'm worried about the economical impact. And I know there are a lot of people out there that want to buy U.S. beef and support farmers in this country. And so I feel like it's important, and it's dishonest to not let people know that, who wants to buy who wants to support farmers in Uruguay when we've got problems of our own to solve. Not to sound, isolationist. I'm just saying, we got American farmers to support.
Well, when I was growing up, there was always this phrase, U.S. grade A meat. And is that so what you're saying is, since they did away with cool, is that saying? Is that where that saying came from, was because of cool, and then they got rid of it?
Yeah, I don't completely know. I would only be speculating, but I would assume so, because I remember that saying too, and now you just don't hear it. But I've heard this from ranchers, but before we got on the podcast, I literally went and looked this up on a government website. And yeah, it's been over 4 years since they required any labeling in terms of country of origin. So let me ask you this, because I know companies find loopholes. Okay, so an American company bought all this beef at a third of the price from Uruguay, from Australia, but then they can like, technically they can call it US beef now, right? Because a US company bought the beef, and then they're throwing that beef into a grocery store, and so now they're labeling it US beef. Is that? Well, I think they'll put USDA and put a grade on it. I don't think they're actually going to label it as US beef. It'll just be USDA, and then they have the varying grades of meat quality, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not completely well versed in all of this.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but it's just interesting. It's just another facet of the problems. I was already aware of the fact that these slaughterhouses are being taken over, and just basically anytime they can, they'll give the U.S. cattle ranchers a run for their money and rip them off left and right. And yeah, it just is what it is. Unfortunately, that's why we've got a lot of head of cattle out here, and my buddy who runs them, most of them, is the one who's really, really hurting. We do low scale, so we've got 9 heifers out there right now and a bull, and we just try to sell our meat locally. So like these hogs there aren't any mobile butchers in the country anymore, but luckily we've got a couple around here, so they're a little backed up, but we'll have a mobile butcher come out and we'll kill the hogs, and then we're just going to sell it to the community. So,
so like the farmers markets, is it that sort of thing, or do you actually have?
We lock people down. We just find people and say, hey, come September 30th, we're going to have hundreds of pounds of bacon and whatever else you want some, and you just get them locked into it, and you kind of sell the animals before you slaughter them in terms of meat. And then we keep some too. We've got over 1,000 pounds of beef right now down in the freezer, and we've got 2 huge chest freezers. So that and that actually kind of reminds me, if you don't mind me going back to this virus thing and how it impacted us. I mean, we had hundreds and hundreds of pounds of dry goods ready to go, and then thousands of pounds of meat. So we were ready for, I don't like to say doomsday prepper, but we were set for anything. Right,
but you kind of have the supply. You kind of have the resources to do that. I mean, I live in a townhouse in the suburbs, so it's not like I have a bunker or we certainly don't have a chest freezer. We have just a regular fridge, what I consider a regular fridge with freezer.
Right.
Yeah, and so we definitely aren't prepped or situated, for that sort of thing. So, I mean, yeah, you can call it one thing, but then really you could, you're more of at an advantage because you're already isolated. So it's not like, you're surrounded by a bunch of people who refuse to wear masks and are, living irresponsibly in these days. So.
Right. Speaking of that, if you don't mind me going off on a tangent here for a second.
No.
So this guy that I'm working with to sell the hogs, and he's the guy who delivered them. He came out here the other day, and we were moving some heavy equipment or whatever. And Casey, my fiance, came out and yelled at me to put a mask on because we were so close. He lost his shit, and he started screaming at her, screaming how the virus isn't real. But this was a new twist because I don't go online to read conspiracy theories about this stuff. I just listen to doctors. He said that the Trump and Putin had conspired to create the virus so that they could kill the elderly in the United States to save money on Social Security.
Okay.
So he's he's anti-Trump, but he's anti-virus and he's anti-reality. I don't.
Well, here's another one. So, here's a conspiracy that I heard was, Zoom's a Chinese company, and the virus was created in China, and so the virus was spread so that the whole world would use Zoom, which right at that moment had all the specs and all the add-ons and all the super cool features that none of the other Google Hangouts or Skype or FaceTime or none of that had. And that stock skyrocketed just as everybody started quarantining, but they're both Chinese created, Zoom and the coronavirus. So, of course, obviously they're both BS. No. they're both
Right.
ridiculous. No, I mean, the virus is real, and well aware of a number of people that I don't know directly, but I know indirectly, and I'm sure friends aren't lying about it, that have contracted it. Actually, I do know somebody that did contract it, and then got cleared, got rid of it. They cured them, if you will, but and it's not a conspiracy. It's just someone was eating, I think, raw monkey brains or something in China, and it got a virus. It got a bug from it,
Right.
and that mixed with other things, because it was one of those, like rare food, exotic, kind of like what do you call it? Like a fish market, but it was more of like an animal market. But there's
Right.
also, but it's also a zoo, like in the same facility. So it was like a mixture of like all sorts of different worldwide animal fecal matters mixing with all sorts of different animals and people from all over the country. It was just like the most central plex, from what I understand. It was like the most central plex of all these little bacterias and viruses that just melded into like the perfect bomb.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
a no, it's not a conspiracy. It's none of that ridiculousness. So
So yeah, exactly. I thought it was funny because the most conspiracy theories I had heard were from people who, like, were making it political, and
yeah.
the fact that this guy, is both anti-Trump and thinks this is some kind of it threw me for a loop. But I live in a media bubble, I guess. So when
Yeah.
I read about conspiracy theories, it's through the filter of the media, and
Yeah.
they don't mention that there's like whack jobs and from all directions believing this isn't real. So,
Yeah.
hey, and anecdotally, I actually have a friend who has the virus, or I don't know if he's cleared yet. He's my age. He's 35, and it kicked his ass. I mean, he made it. He didn't have to go to the hospital, but a couple weeks in quarantine, not feeling hot. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, moving on.
sure.
What would you say? What has there been a movie or a series of movies or a series that you've binge watched or a book that you've read that's helped you get through all this for the past 3 to 4 months?
All of the above.
All the above. Okay.
Let's start with the book.
Okay.
I'm going to show a picture of it here.
Okay.
Okay. This Brilliant Darkness, a book of strangers. This writer, Jeff Charlotte, actually has a series out right now on Netflix called The Family, which I haven't watched it, but I read the book.
Okay.
And so I'm imagining it's good. I've read good things about it, but he used to write about like politics and power and religion in politics, but he stepped away from that and wrote this book. And I've never read anything like it in my life, because I'm going to open up to a page here, try to find a random page. It's a series of vignettes. Let me just show a page. We don't actually have to, get into the reading part of it. But if you can see that, there's a picture here of a burnt out church. And then you got this much writing. And then that's it. He writes a couple paragraphs about these photographs that he took. And it's just an entire book of him going around to different parts of the world and documenting what he sees. And the man had a heart attack. I guess he had 2 heart attacks in a row when he was 43, and decided he needed to stop writing about politics and doing all that other stuff and just kind of focus on documenting what he saw late at night, because he was having trouble sleeping. He just took pictures of people and got their stories. But it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. And I've actually had a few people now who have been quarantining who picked it up and just loved it. I haven't heard of anyone who didn't enjoy it. I'm going to do one more shot from it here. But it opens up with this beautiful thing. Here's a guy working at Dunkin' Donuts. This is last night, and it's just titled Night Shift. And he interviewed this guy and wrote, like I said, just a couple paragraphs. And the strangest thing about this book is that I would read it late at night when I wanted to get off screen time and just get ready for bed. and I would just read a few pages from it, go to sleep. I would wake up and wonder what the hell was that documentary I watched last night. And after a few minutes of grogginess, I'd realize that was just passages from the book.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the combination of prose with the imagery, my memory stores it like it's cinema.
Mm-hmm.
So it remembers, like I remember it as moving images, which I've never experienced before with the book.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah.
So it doesn't have an agenda or anything. It's just and it's honestly something that I hope to. I've already wanted to do something like this in the past. A buddy of mine has talked about doing it with me. But yeah, if imitation is the highest form of flattery, I would love to do that because it works so well, and it seems like there are infinite possibilities with this form of storytelling.
Yeah,
versus the long form narrative, if you will. So, yeah, that book was incredible.
Okay.
In terms of series, I recommend quite a few things from HBO. Have you caught Plot Against America?
I have. So we got rid of HBO when we moved here. We got rid of all like cable. We got streaming. We got Hulu, Netflix, Prime, and so we're missing out on all the HBO stuff.
I'll email you.
Yeah.
No,
I think but no, go ahead. So the Plot Against America, I'm familiar. I think I saw something about it though.
Okay, so that's David Simon's latest work.
Mm-hmm.
David Simon out of Baltimore, who did The Wire and Homicide. It's a 6-part series, and it's based on a book by a writer named Philip Roth. It was written, I think, about 20 years ago, but it reimagines what would have happened in the election leading up to World War II if Charles Lindbergh, the famous aviator, had beat FDR in the election. Since Lindbergh's death, and it's come out that he was definitely a double agent working for the Nazis. He fathered multiple children over in Nazi Germany. And so I don't want to give too much away. I don't like spoilers, but this series, it just imagines what would have happened if Lindbergh would have become president. And suffice to say, the country moves towards fascism quickly. And it's a very intense 6-part series. And there's some children actors in there who, I really feel like that it's hit or miss with kids when you put them in a film. And these kids knock it out of the park.
Yeah,
I don't know how David Simon finds these kids that just know how to act.
Oh yeah, like throughout the whole Wire, like all those kids are now like big time actors now. So surprisingly enough, because I remember the movie, I just don't remember being Christian Bale. But Christian Bale was a kid actor. Kurt Russell was a kid actor. I think at least at the maybe a teen actor. Kurt Russell was in like a bunch of Disney stuff, and now he's Kurt Russell. Now Christian Bale is who he is. And you're right. I mean, the kid who was in Norman Bates, the kid who was in the show Bates Motel, he was a kid actor in that. Like, you're right, man. Like sometimes you get like some kid actors that really nail it out of the park, and they're 5, they're 8, they're 12. Like, how do they know to access emotions like that, or to mimic that, or to unless they've had something traumatic and at such a young age? I'm like, I don't know. You raised a great point as far as like acting, and is because like, and it's funny you mentioned that, because recently I started delving into acting. I started, professionally acting about 5 years ago, and that's because I had a whole plethora of life experiences, and having joined the military was kind of my acting school. So I always took like law enforcement and military roles because I'm able to connect to that. I had that training. I have that self-confidence, and I have that, I was in better shape. So I was more confident in front of the camera for a number of reasons, but also, I'm able to take some past experiences, but being 35, being 40, but like you're 5 or 10, and they're able to like really get into a character somehow, but based on what experiences, you know, like, and maybe that's just like this one way that for me of acting. But you're right, man. Like sometimes kids can be really corny. Like you tell a kid to cry and they're just like, they're not good. but then sometimes, you know, oh man, what was the kid's name? It was the movie about the writer who created Peter Pan. Kate Winslet was this kid's mother. Johnny Depp was the writer of the Johnny Depp was the creator of Peter Pan, and this little boy was his inspiration for Peter Pan. Finding Neverland, that's what it was called. Finding Neverland.
I've never seen that one.
And there's this kid who's now like, you know, he's an adult now, and he's on TV. He's doing like a bunch of different films and TV shows, but he was in a bunch of stuff as a kid also, and he was just mesmerizing in this film. And it's like, dude, the kid's like 12. Like, what kind of experiences does he have to connect to create this emotional response to this scene or that scene? I mean, he had like a rough childhood in the movie, but you know, it's just, it blows me away. Like you said, when someone finds an amazing child actor, like Drew Barrymore, you know, she was a kid actor, and she was brilliant.
Right.
Absolutely brilliant. She was emotional. She was funny. She could be dramatic. She could be serious. She could be lighthearted. But then she got into like the drugs and the problematic, you know, things. So, so when she was really, really young, where was she pulling, you know, these connections to these characters that are living like way outside? Oh, geez, I don't know how to word it. Am I making sense?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just, it kind of makes me wonder just like how much inherent talent there is out there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like Mozart was like 5 when he started composing or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, where was he drawing that from? Because that music is inspirational in so many ways. It's like it's a 5-year-old playing the piano.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's something out there. It's crazy how some people are able to tap into it.
No, I agree. I mean, my kid right now is not even 4, and everybody's blown away by his size, by his communication with us. He's not saying words, but like he's laughing, and he's almost having conversations with the little stuffed animals on the little mobile above this crib, and like he's grabbing onto things. And you know, and not to brag, but obviously, you know, coming from my genes, he's far more advanced than most 4-month-olds are, because, you know, he comes from amazing genes. But but still, like you're right, you know, I mean, here's a 4-month-old who's progressed to almost some are saying, you know, 7 to 9-month-olds, and he's only 4 months. And so yeah, I mean, sometimes there is, I think as we progress as a society, as a planet, as a universe, kids are evolving. Like I got kids that live in my neighborhood, like 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. I was just having a conversation with my wife earlier. I said, how advanced is our kid going to be? Because I'm outside listening to these kids who are 10, 11, 12. They were having some kind of conversation, blah, 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 blah. And then and then one kid says to the other, my mom told your mom we're the same age, but I don't know if that's true. What are the odds? Like, what kind of kid has a conversation like that? Like, I don't remember having, and like the phrase, like a 10-year-old using the phrase, what are the odds? Like, who says that? Like, old people say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have conversations like that when I was a kid. It's like, are you older than me? I tell you what to do. Ha ha ha, blah blah, and nanny boo boo. Like that kind of thing when I was 10, 11, 12. Like, not using these old time phrases, like these old people phrases. What are the odds? Or things of that nature. But yeah, man, these kids are getting more and more advanced. My best friend's kid, I think, is 2.5, maybe 3, and on that phone, watching YouTube, watching YouTube Kids, but she's like on the freaking little phone or a tablet.
You can put her in here. Sorry.
And that's crazy. Oh, look at, and then there's a bird.
Yeah, that it is wild to watch these kids on the electronics.
Yeah.
because I kind of suck at them now. I mean, you and I were doing video, doing video lab stuff a little over a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I pick up some of these devices now, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I feel like a dinosaur with them.
No, I mean, it's important for me to like stay hip with it. And so, I stay on it.
You said that.
Yeah. Because I saw 10 years ago with YouTube, and YouTube started doing live streaming. I knew that was going to be emerging technology. So I stayed hip with the phone and what the phone can do. And I stayed hip with live streaming, and now it's going to be VR in the next 5 years. There's not going to be conferences, especially with the COVID and quarantine, and people are probably saving so much money doing virtual conferences that the only next step now is VR. It's going to be VR concerts, like what's that? Travis Scott, I think his name is. He's a rapper. But Dave,
I'm not familiar. I've heard the name. Yeah.
But just recently, Travis Scott did a concert in the video game Fortnite, and now and so now Steve Aoki, Deadmau5, and another EDM DJ. Fortnite started a sub game strictly for people to log in and do concerts and watch concerts and perform. And so it's all VR now, man. I mean, the next 5 years, because you get the VR games. The Oculus came out, Google Glass or Google Goggles or what? Google Cardboard, that's what it was. Google Cardboard, which is like a little thing you put around your phone, and then you hold your phone up to your eyes, and it's all VR related. But it's going to be the standard in like 10 years. The standard. Live streaming virtual reality, if not simply augmented reality. You're familiar with augmented reality, which is like you got Amazon. Do you have Amazon Prime? You buy stuff from Amazon.
Yeah.
So Amazon has an app, right, where you open up the app and it accesses your camera, and you can look around your house, and it will put things in your house through your camera.
Holy shit! No, I've not heard that.
Yeah, so you take the camera in your kitchen, and it'll put a fucking coffee maker or a dining set on the kitchen table, or a coffee maker and like a new rack of coffee mugs. Or you don't have it there, but by scanning your kitchen through the app, it puts it there. And so it shows you your kitchen with their new products in there. So that's augmented reality. So you got augmented reality and virtual reality.
Gotcha.
And bro, that's gonna be the standard in 10 years. Watching movies with goggles on. It's not going to be, the 50-inch, the 70-inch HD TVs. 4K is going to be out. It's just going to be goggles, and you're just looking around this whole movie.
No shit.
I mean, that's it, man. That's going to be because COVID. So basically for the last 3 years, I was doing live streaming. So say there's a concert, say there's a conference, all these medical professionals get together for a week in DC or New Orleans or Florida, Orlando, whatever. And, it's at a convention center or a hotel, and they're talking about this new pill. They're talking about this new procedure. They're talking about the new tax laws. So we'd film it, mic them up, and then stream it to their website. So people that couldn't make it to the event can at least watch it on the website. And whether you made it to the event or whether you're watching it on the website, you're getting credit for it. Well, now with the COVID, all those events got canceled, but they figured out a way to do it through Zoom and do virtual conferences. So everybody's either joining on Zoom or they're watching on the website, and they're getting all their credits through the website, watching the virtual conference. So taking Zoom and then plug it into live streaming and then putting it out there and so on. So, yeah, the next thing is just going to be freaking virtual reality. Like, right. I'm not even going to waste time. Not even going to waste time with Zoom or live or necessarily a live streaming thing. Just put this one person on a stage with a virtual background. They could stand up against a white wall, or they can sit in a chair against a white wall with an iPhone filming them and a mic, and everybody just jumps onto a freaking goggles and watches. Right. And you can look to your left and you can look to your right, and you can see everybody that's logged into the room to your left and right virtually. And then you see the speaker up ahead. And it's going to be at the snap of a finger. And You know, I'm not gonna need nobody for. It's all gonna be automated too, which kind of scares me. But it's like at least it's something to jump on now.
Right. Have you ever had to work in a cubicle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
We don't need that shit.
No, I don't need that. I don't need that life, man. I don't need that life. I set it up to where if I am gonna work at a cubicle, it's a semi-cubicle that in my basement, so I'm working from home. But
Oh, right.
but yeah, man, I worked at. You remember I worked at Discovery Channel for a little while.
Right.
I was kind of in a cubicle there, and you know, it was a good job, but it just I had to be out. I had to be on set. I had to be on location, or if I'm gonna do that sort of thing, I'd rather do it from home. So I'm right next to the kid, right next to the wife. If they need anything.
All right.
Yeah, man.
No more being a janitor for National Treasure 2 either, right?
Janitor. Yeah. Yeah, putting cardboard on the floor so you don't scuff it up. Hey, man, it was fun, though. That was a fun gig. I mean, kind of, you know, right next to almost being a janitor, sort of, yeah. But moving on to my next point, what would you say is your next agenda, your next set of goals, say for the next 2, 3, 4 months, next year?
Sure. Right before I hit that, can I just throw out 2 more shout outs here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because we did book
series. We're still talking about series. Yeah, okay.
Sorry,
my bad.
I got my notes here. The Five Bloods.
The Five Bloods. Okay.
Did you watch it?
Anything with Spike Lee? I haven't watched it yet because I have a queue, but it's next on the list. The Five Bloods. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, check it out, man.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. And then I can never get enough Nicolas Cage. Color Out of Space.
Okay.
Oh my good lord. So are you familiar with H.P. Lovecraft?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So did you ever see back in the 90s the film The Island of Dr. Moreau with Brando and Kilmer?
Yep. Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. So I think it was John Frankenheimer that finished that, but it was started by a guy named Richard Stanley, an Australian dude.
Okay.
And there's actually, I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there's a great documentary about Richard Stanley trying to make this film. But he's back out, and he is planning on a trilogy with this H.P. Lovecraft stuff. But the first one is The Color Out of Space. It takes place on a farm in a fictional town named Arkham up in upstate New York. It is peak Nick Cage, peak Lovecraft, and I just can't recommend it enough.
Okay.
I'm not sure I want to even say anything more about it other than to watch it.
That and it's funny. That's actually higher. Just there. See, Color Out of Space, The Five Bloods, and there was 2 other films that. Oh well, okay. So it was Jumanji, The Next Level, which I just finished, and so The Five Bloods and Color Out of Space is like next on my queue, man. So I'll not.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of Nick Cage. So have you seen Army of One?
I haven't.
So this is one of the craziest Nick Cage. You want to talk about peak Nick Cage? All right. So it's inspired by a true story about some random dude. What state was he in? I don't know, Arkansas or Washington State or something. It was like some like odd U.S. state. And he just decides to up and fucking go to Afghanistan, or well, start in Pakistan. He started in Pakistan to look for Osama bin Laden.
Ugh.
It was like 08 or 09. He just decides, you know what? I'm gonna take my samurai sword. I'm gonna hunt this fucking guy down. I'm gonna find him and kill him, or at least capture him, and bring him back to the States for for tribunal or whatever, U.S. tribunal. And he went, and like all this shit happened. And so, I'm sure the movie took some liberties, but Nick Cage plays the guy, and it is just off the wall. What in the hell is happening type of movie, and it's based on a true story. And then another Nick Cage one that I liked a lot was Mandy. Have you ever seen Mandy?
Oh yeah, yeah, that was
And
fun.
insane movie, dude. Like, what am I watching? Nick Cage.
Right.
Nick Cage, I think, decided to just take like the weirdest stuff, and sometimes they're a hit. Sometimes, well, a lot of times they're a miss, and then like once or twice a year, it's like, dude, what did I just watch? And after Army of One, I was like, again, what the hell did I just watch here? It's insanity. And there's so many people in this movie. I mean, Matthew Modine, Rainn Wilson, who was Dwight on The Office.
Right.
I forget her name, but she was that blonde cop, the blonde female cop from Reno 911. And I think she was in Bridesmaids too.
Okay, right.
She was in Bridesmaids as well, but she was that blonde female cop from Reno 911. I mean, shit. Everybody was in this freaking. It's like so many people just popped up in this movie. Like, why are you even in this movie? Probably just because it was so ridiculous. But Mandy was really good too. That's like awesome, like, you know, trip out horror. But
absolutely,
yeah. Color Out of Space. I I might as well just put that number one and Defy Blood's number two, like the next things I watch the next couple of days.
That's a good move.
Yeah, I definitely got to check out that book too. That book sounds amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Can't plug that one enough.
So yeah. Sorry, I cut you off from your movie list, but
no concern. You want to know about my agenda?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, our agenda is basically to stay the course. We're just trying to do home improvement. I mean, this is just a busy time of year for us because things are growing. So we try to grow as much food for ourselves as possible. We don't sell any of the food we grow.
Yeah.
But yeah, there really is not much of an agenda outside of what we already do, which is farm. So I'm sorry if that's not a very exciting answer.
No, man, I get it. I get it, man. Like I said, I think you're the first farmer that I've had on here, so it makes sense. And yeah, man. Stay the course. Keep growing. Keep harvesting. Keep what do you call it when you have livestock? Keep breeding.
Yeah, keep breeding, and that's so that one of our bulls he's over a year old. We're hoping he's going to start producing some more calves here soon. He seems to be ready to go, if you will. But we do what it's called homesteading, and we just try to keep our place as self-sufficient as possible. And it's pretty cool. I mean, we've got a spring, so we don't need electricity for water. We've got a spring up on the mountain that just runs water down to us. We've got breeding stock of rabbits and birds and all kinds of stuff. That chick that made an appearance here earlier was actually raised by a duck for a couple days.
Okay.
You got to improvise when you're farming sometimes. So it's called going broody, when a bird wants to sit on a nest. We didn't have any chickens go broody, so we started shoving chicken eggs underneath a broody duck. And that's how we got that chick. That's the only one that survived.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just little things like that, man.
Yeah.
It's just farm life. But that's what's crazy is, out here, the animals don't know there's a pandemic. The animals don't know there are mass protests. And it's easy to kind of forget about it almost for a little bit.
Yeah, I guess that's great in a way to be able to escape and go back to a simpler existence.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, there's nothing wrong with escape. I mean, it affects the whole country, whether it's rural, suburban, or urban, everything that's going on affects us all. But yeah, I mean, I'm envious of that, of just being able to go out there and not hear nothing, not worry about anything directly,
Right.
It's got to be pleasant most times.
It is. It's interesting. And then, we do what we can do. Casey often will point out something on change.org. And so we'll go online and sign some petitions. And, maybe we're not doing too much, but we do what we can. I actually do write to politicians, send them emails or whatever. You go to their inbox or whatever. I don't know if it's email or whatever it's called that they get sent, but that's about the most we do. I understand that people want change, and if you want to get into that for a moment.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah.
I think it's kind of crazy that people are just now, white people, I guess I should say, are just now realizing how hard it can be out there for some people, and realizing that law enforcement can hurt you at certain points. And I'm not speaking out against law enforcement at all. I just mean that I don't know why this seems like news to people. Because I was a punk ass teenager and I got my ass beat by cops. And I mean, I have perfect, like every interaction I have with authority figures now is fine, but now I'm a 35-year-old white dude, but I've seen other people have bad interactions. So frankly, we're happy to see people aware of it. The means by which they attack the situation is questionable. So we're only a couple hours south of Portland. Portland seems to be one of the epicenters of conflict in this country right now in terms of police and civilians. And that's been weird. And we're about, so the closest town we have is Eugene, Oregon. And Casey asked me the night before the really violent stuff started if I thought anything would happen in Portland or Eugene. And I said, no, we're on the West Coast. Everybody's chill. No one's going to do anything. So I've actually been kind of surprised by how things have panned out. And I just, I just hope people can kind of not go crazy. This reminds me of South Park in certain ways, where you get mob rule and people stop focusing on a certain goal and just kind of go crazy. And for its worth, one of my best friends, his father is a black man who is the police chief in Montgomery County, Maryland. And he's one of the sanest, kindest, nicest people I've ever met. And he supports people's right to protest peacefully, as long as it's peaceful. But even he welcomes this. So it's interesting. These are very, very strange times between the pandemic and then this global, because it's not just the U.S. To see streets of Paris, the streets of Berlin just filled with people angry about a man being killed by police in the U.S. This is unprecedented, I do believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's unique. I mean, finally, the whole world. Of course, I'm National Guard, so and currently serving National Guard. So I'm very cautious. I'm very cautious about what I say right now. But I think it's unique to see the entire country joining together to stand up for an important cause. And obviously I don't want looters, I don't want rioters, I don't want stuff set, I don't want shit set on fire or smashed or broken, but I can save my uncensored ideas and comments for when after I get out of the military. But obviously, it's my job to protect the Constitution of the United States, and a lot of that has to do with freedom of speech and freedom of freedom to live a peaceful life and not have freedoms taken away from you or abused or rights violated. So I defend rights and I defend freedoms, and that's what's important to me. And so I think it's great to see the entire country kind of in sync, every city. And unfortunately you have your you have your agitators. You have your agitators.
Yeah.
You have your agitators, your rioters, your looters, and that's unfortunate. But I think we're living in extraordinary times right now, where there is going to be a lot of change. There's going to be a lot of progression. I do consider myself a progressive, and without progressives, we wouldn't have smartphones, video games, the kind of movies and the kind of entertainment and the kind of technology and things of that nature. So got a lot of people are like, oh, these fucking progressives, and it's like, what kind of phone do you have? Oh, I got an iPhone 11. Oh, you need to throw that away, and you can't be on the phone unless you go home and you talk on your rotary phone and check your answer machine, not your voicemail. You check your answer machine at home, and then you call people on your little rotary phone. But if you're gonna have a smartphone, you're gonna have to appreciate progressives and all that stuff. So, I mean, everyone's got something to say until you take away some stuff, and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, I forgot. It was progressives. It was, it was millennials that did this, that, and the other thing, and it was Gen Xers and Gen Yers that did this, and a lot of us are progressives. So,
Right.
Anyway. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you raise a good point. I mean, again, I do have to kind of be careful to an extent of what I say. I can't bash the boss, as like him or not, he's the boss. But yeah, I think that this country is moving towards in a great direction as far as the people demanding change.
Right.
Yeah.
And in terms of the boss, the ultimate boss is us.
Yeah.
I mean, your directives come from elected officials, from the
Mhm.
public. So we have the ability to give you whatever directives we as a society see fit to give.
Exactly.
And so, yeah. And that's why, I don't want to go too much into it, but there's so much back and forth. And I just tend to be a middle ground kind of guy where it's like, you know what? People need to deal with it. There's good law enforcement out there. They're just out there doing a job, and it's not a cool job. It's not a fun job.
It's not.
But they're doing it, and they're doing it to help us, and they're good people. There are good people out there, and we shouldn't forget that while we try to hopefully change things a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Indeed.
Well, moving on.
Sure.
Well, sort of moving on. I'll touch upon that with what would you say your ideas of the new normal are?
Okay. So, do you mean personally or hopes, perhaps? Both. Okay.
Both, yeah. I mean, whatever you got for me, man.
I mean, it's hard to remember the socially distanced part for me. Because I'm a handshaker, and I used to just getting up close to people. So until there's some viable vaccine, I don't want to mess with it. I'm considered among the vulnerable groups or whatever, and so is Casey. And so we're just trying to be careful. So I think the new normal is going to be a lot of telling people, hey, stay back. Let's, do this sensibly. New normals. Okay. So are you familiar with Anthony Scaramucci? He was the financial advisor for Trump for like 10 days.
Okay.
Back in 2017. It's been a whirlwind of weird crap. But anyway, this guy started something called Skybridge Capital. It's a hedge fund. And I actually got to listen into a call with him, and what he said made a lot of sense. And he said that we're going to see the waves in the economy, kind of like we're going to see the waves of the virus. And he advised to just be ready to hunker down and prepare for quite a few years of stagnation, perhaps depression. So we're prepared to live as frugally as possible.
Mm-hmm.
No expenditures on anything other than what's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be new normal for now, because it's fun to buy gizmos and gadgets sometimes, but we're not going to be doing that. There's also a hope too, and this might be kind of a fringe idea, but I feel like a lot of the public school system has become kind of like a warehouse for kids, so their parents can go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that perhaps more parents will take it upon themselves to educate their children while they themselves are able to work from home. Now that could be a dream, but you had mentioned the more remote stuff as well. And so I'm hoping that becomes a new norm. So we live right across the street from a K through 12 school, and I doubt that they are going to have students there this fall. And I know it's a pain in the butt for people who need to work, but if we can work with the people who need to educate their children at home.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man.
I mean, you have a son. I don't know if you're hoping that he's just going to go off to school. I don't know if you hope to do any homeschooling. I don't judge either way. I'm just wondering if you've thought about how you want your son to be educated.
Yeah. My wife is a third grade teacher, so
Okay.
yeah, she's an educator right now, and she's doing the Zoom school. She was doing the Zoom schooling for a couple of months during the COVID when she got off maternity leave. And it's tricky. I mean, it's definitely like, even before COVID and quarantine, everybody was like, this education system is, messed up, and what are we doing? Blah, 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 blah. And then when me and her started dating, 4 years ago, we were talking about that. She goes, some of it is, this is the way education system is now. And it's a little bit frustrating with this, that, and the other thing. But then again, blah, blah, blah. And there's this, and now on top of all that, there's quarantine, it's Zoom teaching, or it's it's online homeschooling, or whatever the case. And so right now we don't know. We have no idea what we're doing.
Right.
I mean, we even put a deposit down for daycare next year. We don't know if that kid's gonna even go to the daycare,
right?
Or if we're just gonna be stay at home, shelter in place continued for another. Because the freaking news is saying, the second surge is going to be twice as bad.
Right. And
so is shelter in place going to be a whole nother year? Not a year from March, but like a year from now, a year and a half, 2 years from now.
Right. So because you're bringing that up, I feel it's necessary to mention that, I've had some conversations with, what we call titans of industry. I mean, I wasn't talking, I just had the privilege of listening to them, but all these people running the country, and I bank with Morgan Stanley. So I've been talking to, these guys have lots and lots of money and lots of information, and they're planning on this shit to last. Mm-hmm. And so people can holler and hoot all they want about, opening up and all that crap, but the people that own the country, they know what's happening.
Yeah.
And so, that's probably going to be the new reality, man. That's what I'm preparing for. Just a long slog.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not complaining about, because we're all in this together. I think that's always an important message.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I've got a buddy who teaches second grade back in Maryland, and he's trying to do that remote teaching thing too. And I wasn't trying to denigrate teachers by calling these schools warehouses. It's just, I feel like people just expect their kids to be able to be sent off somewhere. And it's kind of a shock to the system when they realize that they might have to take care.
Yeah. I mean, based on your comment, parents just dumping kids off to the warehouse so that they can, I didn't necessarily, not only did I take it maybe as a jab at some educational systems, but what I took it also as is a problem with parenting. If the kid just drops the parent just drops the kid off to the school, and in the parent's eyes, it's just a warehouse. It's just daycare until you're 18 years old or whatever. It's just, it's a warehouse. You go there, you get what you get. I don't really care. I'll pick you up. No real involvement in homework, no real involvement in studies, no real involvement in the child's development or the child's development at home after school. And so,
Right.
my mother was involved, and I'm sure me and my wife are definitely going to be involved with the kid before and after school. Now, hopefully, we look into what kind of educational options there are by the time the kid's 3, 4, 5. But I think a lot of it, I mean, you are kind of boxed in to what your options are, depending on where you live, depending on the age group, depending on your demographics or what have you. But you are not boxed in. You're not limited to what you can do as a parent before and after school.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm not saying I want to see school go away or in any way whatsoever. It's just, it's interesting to see people needing to pick up the slack and actually teach their kids something. If your kid's not going to school for next year, you're going to have to teach them some remedial math or something.
Mm-hmm.
Teach them how to read, teach him or her how to read a little better. And I think some people are kind of shocked by that. And so that's all I'm getting at. Because I love, both my parents were teachers. And, I met you through Towson University. I think schools can be great tools, depending on how they're used. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, I tell the story all the time. I sucked at school all the way up until Towson. I mean, I think I did summer school. I think I did summer school just about every year of high school except for freshman year of high school. So I think I just got out of freshman year by the skin of my teeth. Sophomore year, I think I did 1 summer school class. And junior year, I think I did 2 summer school classes. And then senior year was so messed up. I had to do like dual enrollment of some sort during the summer or like in community college. It was just so jacked up. I don't know how I even got a high school diploma, and then I kind of like, screwed up a lot in community college. And then I got to Towson. I screwed up a lot at Towson. But man, the second I got into those film classes where you're hands-on shooting and editing and writing and producing student film projects, that's when my GPA, everything went from like D's and C's and B's to like A's, and the GPA just skyrocketed back up because I was actually hands-on. So maybe I should have gone to like a Full Sail. Maybe I should have gone to a trade school and then a Full Sail, or did like maybe I should have done apprenticeships instead of your traditional college, university type of educational system. Apprenticeships, projects, hands-on training type stuff. Because once I got hands-on with the projects in EMF at Towson, at the Media Center, is when I started excelling. Great.
Right.
I was freaking terrible from age 0 to, 21. And then 21, 22, 23. Just shot that GPA right the fuck up, man. And I also figured out a hack. But that's but no, that's a trade secret, so I can't tell it.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell my kid. I'll tell you to tell your future kids. But that's a trade secret. I can't put it out here not on the podcast just yet because. Okay, I got you. Because then if the wrong people figure it out, then they're gonna remedy that situation. But anyway, anything you want to close out with? Any like final bits of advice?
Yeah. I'm a fan of history, just because it always tells us what's about to happen next, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if anybody's listening to this and they have any wonder about whether or not we should be distancing and wearing masks, I recommend looking into the Anti-Mask League of San Francisco from 1918 and reading about the Spanish influenza of that period. It's amazing how nothing has changed. Fights over wearing masks, violence over wearing masks. It's just nothing changes. And the virus didn't go away. And they had wave after wave. And I think it's important that we all remember that.
Okay. Good point. Yeah. So what was it? The anti-masks,
The Anti-Mask League
anti-mask league of 1918.
of San Francisco.
All right.
It's a weird. If you look it up, there's just a weird series of events that happen. I mean, one dude started mail bombing one of the newspapers for reporting on the virus. I mean, just things. Yeah, have you seen True Detective season 1?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like it. I forget where the McConaughey character got it from, but he says time is a flat circle. And it really does seem to be as much, because nothing has changed other than we've got new gadgets and gizmos from 1918.
Yeah.
The same idiot people that don't believe in science. So,
yeah. Good point.
I'm not trying to leave it on a downer note. I kind of see it as an upper note. I always like it when you see like, oh, this already happened. Kind of gives you a game plan.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Dylan, I can't thank you enough for joining me here on Zombie SquadCast, and a lot of good points, a lot of good advice, a greatly appreciated and different perspective. Like I said, I think you're my first out in bumfuck nowhere farmer to give me like a totally different change of view on things. I think yeah, I hope you get back at least into writing, if not filmmaking. Start writing some shit down. I'll make it for you.
Sounds good. I've actually been writing jokes, lots and lots of jokes.
Okay, well,
this kind of side hustle dream of mine. I'm not getting into it now, but yeah, I would love to coordinate with you in the future.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Lovely.
Any socials, any links, any plugs you want to put out there?
Okay. So I am Catman Dill, DYL, on Twitter, and I guess Instagram. How I try to use that for farm pics, but I kind of just didn't keep up with it. But on the Twitter, I don't care if someone wants to follow me or not, but I follow a lot of badass people. Not all followers or not everyone I'm following is someone I endorse, but I recommend hitting up my Twitter and see some of the shit I've reposted, because there's some really cool academics, lawyers, what have you, military personnel even, who post really cool shit on Twitter. And I always thought it was people talking about what they thought, and I didn't realize it was like this media hub. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I mean, love them or hate them. No comment just yet, but I mean, if it wasn't for Trump, Twitter would not turn into this media hub that it is now. And I think there's a lot of people on Twitter that should not be tweeting, but Twitter, Instagram, Facebook in the last 10 years has really turned Facebook for a while, even before Trump. But social media really has turned into something unique.
Yeah.
Say as far as anywhere between 2016 and 2020. So
absolutely.
Man. Well, Dylan Martin, thank you again for joining me on Zombie SquadCast. It's good seeing you, good talking to you, good catching up. It's been a while since Incubator and Who You Calling and the Hoffman Special and those music videos and those independent films. But it was great having you on, and look forward to what our new normal is, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to you, your wife, and Gabriel.
Thank you. Congratulations to you and the fiance. And
thank you.
Yeah, man. Just stay safe, and we'll be in touch, my man.
Hey, you do the same. Take care, Glenn.
All right, brother.